Lieutenant Jake Morrison stood at attention in the sterile briefing room, his eyes fixed on the empty chair across from him. The assignment details were classified, but he knew enough. Tactical partnership with an alien operative, mental link established for battlefield communication. What he hadn't expected was her. The door slid open with a soft hiss, and she entered with fluid grace that seemed to defy gravity. Her pale blue skin caught the harsh fluorescent light, creating an almost luminescent quality that made Jake's breath catch. Pink curls framed her delicate features, the vibrant color striking against her ethereal complexion. She moved with the controlled precision of someone from a world where every motion was deliberate, economical. Lieutenant Morrison, Commander Hayes gestured toward the newcomer. Meet Specialist Kira Valthara of the Cryos Defense Corps. Jake extended his hand, hoping his voice would remain steady. Pleasure to meet you, Specialist. Her fingers were cool against his palm, sending an unexpected jolt through his system. When their eyes met brilliant silver that seemed to hold depths of ancient ice, he felt something shift in his mind, a gentle pressure, like a door opening somewhere in his consciousness. The neural link is established, she said, her voice carrying a musical quality with just a hint of accent. I can sense your tactical thoughts. Lieutenant, this will make our coordination seamless. Jake nodded, trying to ignore the way his heart had accelerated at her touch. Professional. Keep it professional. But as they sat through the mission briefing, he found himself stealing glances at her profile, admiring the elegant curve of her neck, the way she tilted her head when concentrating. Commander Hayes outlined their assignment: infiltrate a hostile research facility, extract classified data, maintain radio silence throughout. The telepathic link would be their only means of communication. Questions? Hayes asked. Jake shook his head, though 1,000 questions about his new partner swirled in his mind. Kira remained silent, but he caught the faintest flush of color. Across her cheeks a soft lavender that made his pulse quicken. As they left the briefing room, Jake wondered if he could truly hide his growing fascination with this mysterious woman who could read his thoughts. The mission had just become infinitely more complicated. The connection between them hummed with potential, and Jake realized this partnership would test more than just his tactical skills. The training facility buzzed with activity as Jake and Kira worked through their third week of synchronized exercises. Their tactical coordination had become flawless, almost unnaturally so. Jake would think of flanking maneuvers, and Kira would already be moving into position. She would sense incoming threats before his eyes could track them. But it was the quiet moments that undid him. During weapons maintenance, Jake found himself watching her delicate fingers clean her sidearm with methodical precision. Her pink curls would fall across her face, and she'd tuck them behind her ear with an unconscious grace that made his chest tighten. He'd force himself to look away, focusing intently on his own equipment. Your pulse rate increases when you observe me, she said one afternoon, not looking up from her rifle scope calibration. Jake's hands stilled on his weapon. What? Nothing concerning, merely an observation. Her voice remained neutral, but he caught the slight upturn of her lips. Your species has interesting physiological responses too. Focus. Heat crept up his neck. I'm just making sure our team coordination is optimal. Of course. The flush across her cheeks deepened to that soft lavender he'd begun to recognize. Your dedication to our mission success is admirable. During combat simulations, their connection intensified. Jake would feel her presence in his mind like a cool breeze, steadying his aim, anticipating his movements. But sometimes, in the heat of mock battle, he'd catch glimpses of something else: warmth, approval, something that felt distinctly like pride in his abilities. Excellent work today, their instructor announced after a particularly challenging scenario. Your synchronization scores are off the charts. As they walked back to the barracks, Jake ventured, does the telepathic link ever feel overwhelming? Having someone else's thoughts mixed with your own? Kira was quiet for a long moment. My people are taught emotional discipline from birth. We learn to separate our thoughts from external influences. She paused, glancing at him sideways. Though your thoughts are particularly vivid. I'm sorry if I'm broadcasting too much. Do not apologize. Her voice carried a gentleness he hadn't heard before. Your mind is refreshing. Most of My people think in precise, cold patterns. Yours flows like water, warm and dynamic. That night, Jake lay awake thinking about her words. Warm and dynamic. He wondered what else she'd seen in his thoughts. What other feelings she'd tactfully chosen not to mention. In the darkness, he allowed himself to imagine what it might be like to touch her face, to see if her skin was as soft as it looked the moment the thought formed. He felt a flutter in their connection, like an echo of yearning that wasn't entirely his own. Maybe he wasn't the only one struggling with unwanted feelings. The abandoned mining facility loomed against the crimson sky of Kepler 4-4-B, its twisted metal framework casting jagged shadows across the rocky terrain. Jake and Kira moved through the outer perimeter with practiced silence, their minds linked, in perfect tactical harmony, to guards at the east entrance. Kira's voice whispered directly into his consciousness, rotating patrol every 4 minutes. Jake nodded, checking his chronometer. Their intelligence-gathering mission had gone smoothly so far, but something felt off. The facility was too quiet, too easy to infiltrate. As they approached the main structure, Jake's protective instincts flared. The hair on the back of his neck stood up, a sensation he'd learned to trust. Kira, something's wrong. We should. The crack of a sniper's rifle split the air. Jake threw himself sideways, tackling Kira to the ground behind a corroded support beam. The bullet sparked off metal where her head had been milliseconds before. Ambush. Jake rolled, drawing his weapon, but more shots rang out from multiple positions. They were surrounded. In the chaos, Jake's mind filled with one overwhelming thought: protect her. Nothing else mattered, not the mission, not protocol, not his own safety. He had to keep Kira alive. Jake, your emotional spike. Kira's mental voice carried an edge of surprise. I can feel your, stay down. He returned fire, his shots precise despite the adrenaline coursing through him. 3 hostiles down, but more were closing in. We need to move. They bounded from cover to cover, Jake's body automatically positioning itself between Kira and the incoming fire. Each time a bullet came too close to her, his heart hammered against his ribs like a caged bird. Why are you doing this? Kira's voice was strained as they pressed against a concrete barrier. Doing what? Shielding me with your body. My combat training is equivalent to yours. Jake reloaded his weapon, hyper-aware of every sound around them. I know, I can't help it. When he looked at her, he saw something had changed in her expression. Her silver eyes were wide, studying his face with an intensity that made him feel exposed. The pale blue of her skin had taken on a deeper hue, and her breathing was shallow. Your feelings, she whispered, they're so strong I can taste them. A grenade rolled toward their position. Jake grabbed Kira, pulling her against his chest as they dove for new cover. The explosion showered them with debris, but they were safe for a moment. They lay tangled together, her face inches from his. I feel it too, she breathed, her cool fingers touching his cheek. This connection between us, it's not just tactical anymore. Jake stared into her eyes, seeing his own longing reflected there. Kira, I know what you think about at night, she continued, her voice barely audible. The way you imagine touching me, holding me. I feel every emotion you try to hide. Before he could respond, enemy voices grew closer. They had to move, but as they prepared to make their escape, Jake saw something in Kira's posture that hadn't been there before, a protective stance that mirrored his own. She was guarding him just as fiercely as he was guarding her. The extraction point was still 2 kilometers away when Jake's leg gave out. The enemy bullet had found its mark during their desperate escape, and now blood seeped through his tactical gear, leaving a dark trail on the alien soil. We have to keep moving, he gasped, leaning heavily against Kira's shoulder. They'll track us here. You're losing too much blood. Her voice remained calm, but Jake could feel her panic. Through their mental link, sharp, crystalline fear that cut through his consciousness like ice. I'm calling for emergency extraction. No, Jake grabbed her wrist. Radio silence. That was the order. Orders be damned. The curse sounded strange in her musical voice. I won't let you die. As she activated her communicator, Jake felt something extraordinary happening in their connection. Her telepathic abilities, usually controlled and precise, were expanding, reaching deeper into his mind. He could feel her experiencing his pain as if it were her own, the burning in his leg, the lightheadedness from blood loss, the cold fear creeping up his spine. "Kira, stop." He tried to pull away from the link, but she held on. "You're going to hurt yourself." "I can't turn it off." Tears tracked down her cheeks the first time he'd seen her cry. "When you're in pain, I'm in pain. When you're afraid, I'm afraid. This isn't just telepathy anymore, Jake. It's something else." Enemy voices echoed in the distance, growing closer. Jake tried to stand, but his vision blurred. "Leave me. That's an order." "No." Kira's voice carried a steel he'd never heard before. "My people may be cold, but we are not without honor. And She hesitated, her pale blue skin flushing that familiar lavender. "I cannot lose you." She helped him to his feet, supporting most of his weight. "There's a cave system ahead. We can hide there until extraction arrives." As they stumbled forward, Jake felt her strength flowing into him through their connection. She was somehow sharing her energy, her life force, keeping him conscious and mobile. The effort was costing her. He could feel her exhaustion, her muscles trembling with the strain. "Why?" he whispered as they reached the cave entrance. "Why are you doing this?" Kira helped him down onto the rocky floor, then knelt beside him, her hands glowing with a soft blue light as she pressed them against his wound. "Because 3 weeks ago, you asked me if the telepathic link felt overwhelming. I lied." The warmth from her hands spread through his leg, numbing the pain. "You lied. I told you my people learned to separate our thoughts from external influences. But I never learned to separate my heart from yours." Her voice broke slightly. "Every emotion you've tried to hide, I've felt. Every moment you've looked at me and thought I was beautiful. Every time you've wanted to touch me, I've experienced it all." Jake reached up, his fingers tracing the curve of her cheek. "Then you know that you love me?" She leaned into his touch. "Yes, just as you should know that I love you too." The admission hung between them like a bridge finally built. Outside, the enemy search parties grew closer, but inside their small sanctuary, Jake and Kira had found something worth fighting for. The rescue shuttle's engines hummed softly as they lifted off from the hostile planet's surface. Jake lay in the medical bay, his leg properly bandaged and pain medication coursing through his system. Kira sat beside him, her hand resting gently on his arm, their telepathic connection now calm and steady. "Mission accomplished," Commander Hayes announced over the intercom. "Well done, both of you." Jake squeezed Kira's fingers. "We make a good team." "The best," she agreed, her silver eyes holding a warmth he'd never seen before. "Though I suspect our partnership dynamic has evolved." During the 3-day journey back to base, they talked about everything: her ice world childhood, his memories of Earth, their fears about crossing species boundaries. Their connection had deepened beyond the tactical link, becoming something profound and permanent. "My people will not understand," Kira said one evening as they stood in the shuttle's observation deck, watching stars streak past. "Emotional attachments are seen as complications. Mine might not either," Jake admitted. "But I don't care about their opinions anymore." He turned to face her, drinking in the sight of her ethereal beauty. "I care about this, about us." Kira stepped closer, her pale blue skin luminescent in the starlight. "Jake, there's something you should know about my species. When we form deep telepathic bonds, they become intimate in ways your people might not understand." "Show me," he whispered. She placed her hands on either side of his face, her cool fingers sending shivers through him. "Open your mind completely. Trust me." Jake let his mental barriers fall away. Instantly, he felt her consciousness merge with his, not just her thoughts, but her emotions, her sensations, her very essence. It was overwhelming and beautiful, like diving into an ocean of shared feeling. Through their connection, he experienced her perception of him, how his warmth had thawed something frozen in her heart, how his human passion had awakened desires she'd never known existed. In return, she felt his wonder at her otherworldly grace, his deep admiration for her strength and intelligence. "This is how my people truly connect," she murmured against his lips, "mind, body, and soul as one." When they kissed, Jake felt the sensation multiplied through their link, his desire reflected and amplified by hers, her tenderness flowing into him like liquid starlight. Every touch was shared, every caress felt twice over. I've never experienced anything like this." He breathed, holding her close. "Nor have I," she smiled. Her cheeks flushed with that beautiful lavender color. "This bond we share, it's permanent now. We're connected for life." Jake looked into her eyes, seeing their future reflected their missions together. Quiet moments of understanding, a love that transcended the boundaries of species and worlds. "I can't think of anything I'd want more," he said, sealing his words. With another kiss, outside the observation deck, the universe continued its ancient dance. But inside their embrace, Jake and Kira had found their own perfect harmony, two minds, two hearts, united as one across the vast expanse of space and difference. Their love story had begun with hidden thoughts and stolen glances, but it would continue as something neither of their species had ever imagined possible: a telepathic bond forged, not by duty or necessity, but by the simple, powerful truth that some connections are destined to transcend all boundaries.